I used to be ashamed that I never went to the Paralympics or swimming, but I'm in a better position than I ever was as a swimmer to try and get to these major games. Just one night, I was having a bit of a breakdown in my uni halls during lockdown, and I thought, I need to find something else. When I was younger, I went to a para sports festival and was told, you've got the build to be a thrower. You're going to be a thrower. And then it was just constant back and forth to get me in. And 4 years yesterday was my first competitions. Post London, and as the older I got with swimming, I just kind of thought, I'm a double leg amputee and I have somewhat of a platform. I'd love to show what young amputees who may see me and use me as an example, oh, I can do this, I can do that. I'd like to be a role model. I think me coming to athletics was always the plan. So when I left swimming, I thought that was the Paralympic dream dead. And came to athletics, that door's back open to maybe one day go and compete at Paralympic Games. So it's just trust the process. There's times where I've been self-conscious, and there's just times I've just not wanted to be disabled. But no matter how many times I've felt that, I've always been proud of it.
Okay, Adam, so you've said to us before that athletics is basically your second chance at competing professionally. So could you tell us a bit more about what you meant by that exactly and where you are with the sport now?
So I came from swimming in 2021. I was a very good level, national level swimmer who just could never make that jump to the next level and go compete internationally. I was a multiple time senior medalist, Scottish record holder, but just whatever reason the international classification never came, and then it just kind of spiraled from there. It started to burn out of swimming, and lockdown couldn't have hit at a better time because it allowed me to kind of refocus. Like when I went to Stirling Uni during lockdown, I was on all the Zoom calls for the Stirling Uni swimming squad, so I was still intent to swim. And then just one night, I was having a bit of a breakdown in my uni halls during lockdown, and I thought, I need to find something else. I need to find another sport because if I keep swimming, I don't know where I'd be mentally. So I just kind of thought, I'll see what was out there. But I thought that always stuck to my head was when I was younger, I went to a para sports festival and was told, you've got the build to be a thrower. You're going to be a thrower. I obviously met that with, I'm just a swimmer. But then I kind of thought, I seen, just in the off chance, I seen somebody I knew for wheelchair basketball doing seated throws, and I thought, I quite like the look of that. And then it was just constant back and forth to get me in. And then just eventually, once restrictions eased, I was over in Fife throwing for the first time. And 4 years yesterday was my first competition. So it's kind of grew massively. In 4 years, I've had, as we'll touch later, I've had some amazing opportunities. But going back to the second chance, I used to be ashamed that I never went to the Paralympics or swimming. But now see that now that I'm in athletics, I'm in a better position than I ever was as a swimmer to try and get to these major games. I currently in the process to try to qualify for Commonwealth Games next summer. It's just opportunities that would never have got in swimming, which is not a bad thing. I was now happy where I was in swimming, but just having that new lease of life in a sport has just rekindled my competitive spirit and just see how far I can take it. It's been a very natural progression because a lot of the skills can be transferable. Yes, I'm not in the water, but I know how to train, and I'm then through swimming, I'm very flexible and stuff. So all kind of adds up. But outside, I couldn't have happened at a better time just because I was at Stirling Uni, which is some of the best sporting facilities in the world. So it kind of gave me a very good chance to maximise the surroundings that I'd had in order to kickstart coming into a new sport. And coming in, I am a very quick learner in sport. It was very evident when I learned to swim at 7, when I came over to wheelchair basketball in 2016. And there was so much to learn because I knew nothing about athletics. I knew Usain Bolt and that was about it. So there was so much to learn, and I think that's what really hooked me.
Since you've been really serious about the sport, about seated throws, what would you say your personal highlights have been over the years?
some of the big achievements is I never once thought I'd go to university. Academically, I could have tried much harder, and my gran would admit that herself. But the fact that I ended up going to uni and ended up going to 3 BUCS, winning 6 BUCS titles is quite special to me, just because I was never predicted to go to university. Outside of like medals, I've got to compete at a Diamond League. Like, there's so many people in the world that never get that opportunity, and I got to experience it eight months into the sport as a test event for Birmingham 2022. It was just such a cool experience. Admittedly, I didn't know what a Diamond League was. My coach had to explain it to me. But when I got there, it's the biggest thing I'd ever competed at. Like, swimming crowds were great, but you turn the corner and you see about 4,000 people looking at you. Nothing can prepare you for that. What also then doesn't prepare for you when you're in the middle of the stadium and you break your throwing frame in your third throw, because I bent the pole. But other stuff is, I got to experience the last Commonwealth Games as like a development athlete, sort with the Team Scotland Achieve programme. So I get took down to the games to experience what it would be like if I was an athlete in preparation for future games. Just that experience as a whole, because I missed Glasgow 2014 due to being on holiday, and it looked such a cool experience. So the fact I got to then being basically involved with the next game, but surrounded by like-minded athletes at my age, just was really cool. But just other stuff is getting to combine my degree whilst studying with sport was quite big, and actually graduating was probably a big achievement, because I managed to do my dissertation on how para-athletes can transfer for sport with similar ease, just like me. So it was quite cool getting to combine my sport with my dissertation.
Yeah, no, definitely some really big achievements you've done over these past few years. No one can deny that. So when you see these thousands of people in the crowd just before you do your throws, what goes through your mind just before you do what you're setting out to do? Like, what are the main emotions for you at that point?
At Diamond League, I was kind of overwhelmed, because I'd never experienced anything like that before. But I knew if I could spot my granda in the crowd, it'd kind of settle me a wee bit. And it was quite easy to find, because my coach couldn't make it, he ended up with a coach's pass. So it was quite easy to find him, because he was basically in the front row. But emotions wise, I sometimes struggle with that. Like, that overwhelming hits me and it can kind of knock me. But we have developed it a lot over the last year, and I'm now a lot more composed in environments that I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, that was actually going to be my next question. So, I mean, I've never done it myself, so I can only imagine it. But yeah, there must be so many thoughts rushing through your head, like just before you're about to throw. So yeah, what are your main coping strategies now then, would you say?
So the reason we've had to develop them is, when I was swimming, I didn't have to like worry about all that, because I had my headphones on until I got to the block. Obviously, with athletics, that's not allowed. So it's like stuff like just breathing. I'm not allowed to look at the throwing frame being set up, just because I think it's something that can stress me out. If I don't like how it's been set up, it can stress me out a wee bit, as much as it's out of my control. So I don't really look at that. So that's one of our strategies. The other is just talking about anything other than the throw, because if I start to overanalyze everything, that's when my throw starts to shake a bit. So it's just stuff like that. It's just trying not to think about it and just try to remain calm during the warm up.
Yeah, 100%. So with seated throws then, Adam, because I've said to you before, I'll be completely honest, before I really knew a lot about the athletics world as a whole, I knew zero to little about seated throws. And you get a lot of people as well making like certain assumptions about the sport just purely because they don't know a lot about it. So what what are the biggest myths that you know of associated with the sport? And yeah, how do these perceptions of seated throws affect things for you, would you say?
So I think some of the biggest myths is, one of them is everybody thinks that we use the same throwing frame for people looking in, whereas everybody has their own specific chair. Some of them may be the same chair, just adapted to left and right handed, but everybody has their own personal frame. Other misconceptions is unlike able-bodied athletes and ambulant para-athletes, we don't get rounds as such. We are pretty much 6 throws back to back in very short succession in competition. And just then, some of the other myths that I've personally heard is how people actually think seated throwers throw. I've heard people think it's my coach pushing me down a javelin straight, then I throw a javelin just before the line, which I don't think would end well for me or my coach. And I think it's just, I don't think it damages the reputation of seated throws, if I'm being honest, just because it's an event that's developing every year as younger athletes are starting to come into it. But the misconceptions can sometimes hinder it a little bit, in the sense that it sometimes can go under the radar. Like, if you go online and look for like educational videos, there's nothing effectively. And I think that's one of the misses that people know about it. Like, realistically, unless you know a seated thrower or you've seen it at a competition, you're really going to know what it is.
Yeah, definitely. So what do you think needs to be done then in terms of raising awareness for the sport? Like what, because like you said yourself, there's hardly anything out there in terms of videos on YouTube or whatever it might be when it comes to like actually training as a seated thrower. So what do you think could be done to help raise awareness for the sport?
I think naturally it's going to progress every year, every Paralympic cycle, just because there's more and more eyes on the Paralympics every 4 years due to Channel 4's coverage and just other things. Seated throws is only going to develop as the younger athletes like myself, Kieran Jones, Max Fior start to shine through a bit. I think that's just getting that representation. It being in both the men and the women's section in Glasgow next year is absolutely massive, because it shows that we are now being thought as being at the table for these major games, whereas before wheelchair racing and that would have took priority. But I think it's one of the things that's just going to grow over time in this country. Like, if you go to the Asian countries, it's actually quite big. So I think it's just over time, and the more and more like younger athletes that come in is what's going to take it to the next level.
Yeah, slowly but surely, I think we are getting there, like you say. And as part of raising awareness of the sport, you post a lot of your training sessions on social media as well. So what makes you so keen to share your journey with others? And what do you hope people will get from your content?
So I very much grew up in a pre-London 2012 world where there was nothing really for young kids like me as a double leg amputee out there. And for that, you didn't really know what you could do. So, like, post London, and as the older I got with swimming, I just kind of thought, I'm a double leg amputee and I have somewhat of a platform. I'd love to show what young amputees who may see me and use me as an example, oh, I can do this, I can do that. And even that, just other people with disability. It's just, I'd like to be a role model, and maybe somebody's not thought of something like they can do in the gym. They might see mine and go, oh, we could maybe adapt that for me. But then the other thing is with seated throws, if they see me training, they might go, I like the look of that. So I just think I'm in a unique position as an athlete where I have a platform to kind of raise awareness from not only my impairment, but just other impairments in sport.
And have you had much feedback then from the stuff you post online? Do you get a lot of people messaging you saying, you've inspired me to do this or to do that. Yeah, do you get a lot of people talking about
Well,
your sessions?
due to it, I am an ambassador for a charity called Finding Your Feet, which is an amputee charity in Scotland. So that was quite special to me, just because I can be an ambassador for those with impairments just like mine. And it was nice that they recognised my sport and trust me to be in a position to like kind of inspire others. And I've had quite a few messages just saying it's quite cool to see that I'm a very determined person, and I don't let my disability hold me back, especially in a gym setting. My PT, he hears it all the time, like folk try to figure out how I'm doing certain things. Like, I think some of the ones is people try to work out how I managed to do a deadlift off my stumps. So it's just stuff like that. I like pushing myself in order to show other people what they can do, pretty much.
Because from what I've seen, your training sessions are intense a lot of the time as well. Does it differ from, say, winter to summer, or is it kind of the same sort of routine you follow week by week?
So summer in season, we don't lift as heavy as we would in the winter, just because we are trying to keep myself fresh and conditioned to throw quite heavy loads in training throughout the summer. Whereas in the winter, I am not throwing as much in the frame. It's more building up my strength, building up everywhere to get prepared for the next season.
Oh, okay. Okay. So yeah, and have you been doing that for quite a few years, would you say, or does it?
I have done it since my second year in the sport.
Right.
I was quite fortunate to be on scholarship at Stirling Uni, so I had access to like the performance suite. So I
Okay.
had access to have world class facilities. But even now that I'm back home, I'm training in a commercial gym. But even the facilities in there are amazing.
Because I think I remember you telling me that actually ages ago, that where you train, they have some really good pieces of equipment just to help you get to where you need to be. So yeah, has that been really instrumental, basically, where you train in helping you get to where you need to be?
Pretty much, yeah. Like when I graduated uni last summer, everything kind of was flipped on its head. I moved home, so I lost access to the uni facilities and stuff. So we kind of did see the effect. And then once everything gets back up and running, like I'm the strongest I've ever been, and I've lost a bit of weight. So we're in a very good place due to just how well we're training.
And you did say to me the other day that you've been feeling really good this season about how you've been performing and how you've been training compared to other years. So yeah, clearly it's all been paying off. So you do different throws events. So you do shot put, you do javelin. I mean, speaking of the two, you got a seasonal best in shot put not too long ago, I think, and literally a PB in javelin the other day, as of when we've been filming this interview. So yeah, because you have experience in quite a few different events, as a seated thrower, from your perspective, what would you say the hardest ones to compete in, and what are maybe some of the easier ones? Like, where would you rank them?
So if we're on the easier scale, javelin, discus come a lot more natural to me, just because they are very similar to swimming movements. So like with javelin, it is basically it's a freestyle or a butterfly technique within reason. Discus, because I was a swimmer, I'm very open, so I can spin a discus fairly well. Shot put, it's harder just because it doesn't come naturally, and I have had to literally learn it from scratch, because I also done javelin briefly at school, so I kind of understood the fundamentals of discus and javelin, whereas shot put was just completely new, and it requires a lot more just power and force compared to the technical of the other two.
Yeah, that makes sense actually. So and the seated throws community as a whole, so the people you compete with and compete against, actually, what is that community like, would you say? Is it quite a close-knit community?
It's a very close knit community. Like, I've never experienced anything like it. I've been in multiple different like circles. I've been in like distance swimming, wheelchair basketball squads, but just the seated throws community it's a cool one. Everybody has time for each other, and everybody is so supportive. And I think it comes from we know that we're not the biggest event in the world of athletics. So I think everybody just uses it as a tool to kind of push each other. So in Scotland, we have got myself, Kirsty Suter, Johnny Brown, Graham Condy, and Julie McElroy. It's just, everybody's just so supportive and really wants to see everybody succeed. Like, it's just such a social but competitive group. We all may be different classifications, but we're always there trying to push each other at competitions. And I think it's really comforting to know that everybody's got each other's back, and we celebrate everybody's PBs as their own pretty much. But even like prior to, like, we're talking about just UK and Scotland based athletes. I've had the privilege to compete against the Polish athletes and athletes from like the Oceanic Islands, but even they just get the vibe immediately as well. You just kind of, they're just nice. Every seat at the floor just is time for everybody, which is just quite, because sometimes you could think that's just, there's only about 5 years in Scotland, we may just be nice and close because of that. But then we see these other athletes coming over from other countries and they're just so invested as well. It's very comforting.
Yeah, totally. So how is it for you as a Scottish para thrower to compete with your country? Do you ever feel any sense of pride knowing that you are competing for your country, Scotland?
I've been in the fortunate position to represent Scotland in 3 sports. And that same feeling that I experienced as an 11-year-old going away at my first junior championships or swimming is the same feeling I get now that I'm 24, 25 this year. It's just, you don't get many chances to represent Scotland as a para-athlete, and that's across the board, just because it's a small competition pool. But it's just that feeling like that you're doing something and you're leaving your mark. It's just very humbling, and just think that is the feeling that I had as an 11-year-old, or as a 9-year-old going up to my first Scotland training session. It's the same feeling.
So, I mean, that kind of leads on to what I was going to ask you next. I mean, if you could look back on your 5-year-old self, what advice would you give him?
I think there's 2 things I'd probably say. Is there's going to be times where your disability, you get bullied and stuff, but it's going to be okay. Like, even like health wise, my walking health and my leg health hasn't been great since COVID, but now I'm now in a process of rehabbing it. So it's just tell my 5-year-old self that things with your disability is going to be okay. Because there's times where I've been self-conscious, and there's just times I've just not wanted to be disabled. But no matter how many times I've felt that, I've always been proud of it. And I look forward to continuing to see how far I can push my disability. So I think that's the first thing, is it'll be okay. And the second thing is trust the process. I am in probably the most fortunate position that I've ever been in sport at 24 years old. Would I have liked that when I was younger? I think it'd be daft if I said no. But like, I think me coming to athletics was always the plan. Just when I was told that in 6 years at school, when one door closes, the other one's open. Or there's a way to get that other door open. So when I left swimming, I thought that was the Paralympic dream dead. And came to athletics, that door's back open to maybe one day go and compete at Paralympic Games. So I think that's probably it. Trust the process. It's not always going to go to plan. I was never supposed to go to university, just with how I done academically, but I did and ended up with a degree. So it's just trust the process.
Yeah, I mean, I really hope people can take something away from what you just said there, as I'm not even just para athletes, able-bodied athletes as well, because there's so many times where a lot of athletes can doubt themselves, especially when it's, I mean, you have a support network, but everyone, when it actually comes to competing, everyone's in it for themselves ultimately. So yeah, you can always have those doubts surrounding what you're doing. So yeah, I really hope people can take something really positive away from what you've just said there. But yeah, no, I really appreciate you talking to me, Adam. So yeah, thank you so much, and best of luck for the rest of the season and for the next few years and beyond.
Thank you.